Yo, so let's talk about what Jesus really did on the cross. Alright, now I'm going to break it down. This is a conversation I had with the Lord a few years ago. I was like, actually, the Lord brought this up to me. Um, Gotta get the camera right. He asked me, he was like, Braden, if I came to you and I said, I will give you authority over everything. I'll make you the king of everything, the ruler of everything. You're going to have the highest name above everyone. You're going to be the ruler of everyone. You're going to have all authority, all power. It's all going to be yours. And everyone's going to praise you. All you have to do is go die on a cross. You need to be crucified. You need to take some lashes. You're going to take some lashes on your back. People are going to spit on you and make fun of you and mock you. And you need to be crucified on a cross. Essentially, in a nutshell, he's like, one day of really sucky, crappy everything, just bad. Just maybe, like one day of Suckville for eternity of glory, power, praise, name above all names, ruler of everything. He was like, would you take it? Would you take that offer? And obviously, as you can tell, this is Jesus. This is what Jesus did, right? This is what we look at as the crucifixion that Jesus did. And I was like, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything here, because I think a lot of people would have the same answer as me. I was like, yeah. It didn't even take me a whole lot to think about it. I was like, I mean, yeah, it would suck to be crucified and tortured and take the lashes and everyone's hating on you and stuff. But yeah, if it was just one, like half a day of crap and just terrible garbage, just for half a day, to where the reward is an eternal glory and eternal kingdom, I'd be like, yeah, I would do that. And then God was like, yeah, I know you would. A lot of people would, actually. And in fact, many of even the apostles, and not just them, but just tons of people all across the world, not even martyrs for Christianity, but just people in general, have suffered more torturous deaths than Jesus. Not to take away from the physical pain that he felt during all that, and I actually haven't even seen Passion of the Christ. Keeping it real. Haven't seen it. I'm still a Christian. Yeah. But, I'll watch it at some point. But he was like, yeah, a lot of people would. Many more people have died more torturous deaths than Jesus did. He was like, do you really think that was the sacrifice that my son made for you? Was dying on a cross? I was like, man, I never even really thought of it like this. And he's like, no, that's not. That's what you guys did to him. That's the punishment that humanity dealt to him. That's the pain that you guys gave him. But his sacrifice wasn't that he died on a cross. That was just the means to the sacrifice. His sacrifice was that, and let me, I'm not even going to get into it just yet because there's a little bit more. First, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane praying beforehand, a lot of people know the story. People say he was sweating blood. It doesn't say he was sweating blood. It was it said his sweat was like drops of blood. So he probably wasn't literally sweating blood, I don't think. But anyway, just to hit on that myth for a little bit. Or that conception, it may not be a myth. But anyway, then he was praying in the garden, and his prayer is powerful. Listen to what he says. He's asking the Father, he's saying, Lord, Father, actually, please, is there any other way? Because I do not want to do this. And then the Father's like, no. And he has to pray, he prays 3 different times, like, please, Father, I don't want to go through with this. Is there any other way? And the Father's like, no. And he's like, but not my will be done, but your will be done. Jesus didn't want to die on the cross. Jesus didn't want to do what he did. He asked, please don't make me do this. But he was obedient to the Father. But anyway, he wasn't saying, please, I don't want to die on a cross. He knew the ramifications. And the real ramifications, the real sacrifice, thank you for tuning in for these 5 minutes so that I can get to the point, was that he bore all of our sin. That all the sin, he became a sin magnet. And all sin in the world, every sin I've committed, that I will commit, that any of you watching have committed, that anyone in the past has committed, that Hitler committed, that anyone, all of that sin was just glued onto Jesus. All this darkness, to the point where it says in Isaiah that it pleased the Father to strike him. Like, think about that. It pleased the Father to strike down his own Son because of all the sin that he was covered in. And when you think about it, and then God elaborated even further for me. He was like, every sin deserves not just death, but it deserves hell. That's justice. That is actual justice. And people may be like, oh, that's so, like, oh, I did this, so I have to go to hell? Yeah. Like, you don't, if we understood sin better, I'll get into that maybe another time, but every sin warrants hell. Now, and hell's really bad. I won't even explain it. It's worse than you can even imagine. And Jesus paid the price for me. He had to, so that God could remain just, that penalty had to be paid. My hell, Jesus paid it. That was his sacrifice. Think about that. And then, so Jesus pays my hell, which I can't imagine how terrible that is. And this is after his death on the cross. And then he has to pay your hell. And then everyone else's hell. So multiply whatever I would have had to suffer in hell and you by billions. Maybe more. I don't know how long this is going to last. Because he paid everyone's. That was his sacrifice. And then God was like, he's like, yeah, that's why he didn't want to go through with it. But it was the only way for God God to show us mercy without breaking his perfect justice. Because he's a just God, which means every sin must be paid for. It's incredible how, because like to be merciful, you can't be just. Like when you actually think of it logically, like justice means everything gets what it deserves. Mercy means you don't get what you deserve. But God somehow, some way, figured out a way to make it so that he could be perfectly just and merciful at the same time. Merciful to us so that his justice could be done by Jesus paying the price. Think about how bad hell is and multiply that by billions. That's what Jesus paid for us. That was his sacrifice. That's why he's the name above all names. And then when God was like, would you still do it? And I was like, no. And I was crying at this point. I mean, I'm talking more like goofy and stuff right now, but I was bawling. This was a pretty intense moment for me. God just totally making clear the real sacrifice, what the cross really represents. The Father turning his back on the Son. It pleased him to strike him, the book of Isaiah says. It was his good pleasure to strike down his Son because of the sin that was on him, that he bore for all of us. That is his sacrifice. That's intense. I know that you probably can't even wrap your mind around it, because if you really were wrapping your mind around it, you would be busting out in tears right now. There's no way you wouldn't. To think of how much what you deserve that he paid. I could go deeper, but this is really long, so I'm stopping now. Anyway, Jesus, the truth, my king. And if he's not your king, you should talk to him about it, because he's tight. Anyway, love is always the most important thing. Remember that. It's the key to everything. And with that said, God bless, and until next time, I should add, Ron Paul 2012. All right, peace.